Hatred is not born, it is built. It is not a primary emotion, but a construct, an accumulation of fear, pain, unmet needs, and unprocessed experiences that are hardened into psychological armor. No human being enters this world with hatred. It is learned, reinforced, and eventually embodied. At its root, hatred is a defense mechanism. When a person feels threatened, physically, emotionally, ideologically, the primitive brain activates survival responses. The amygdala processes danger and primes the body for defense or aggression. But when the threat is psychological and persists over time without resolution, especially during formative years, the mind begins to seek a fixed enemy to externalize internal conflict. Hatred provides that target. From a neurobiological perspective, hatred activates the same circuits in the brain as love, but in reverse. Both involve deep emotional investment and identity. In fact, the neural activity for hatred often overlaps with areas involved in moral judgment and decision-making. This means hatred is not just a feeling. It becomes part of how someone sees the world, processes information, and chooses action. It is woven into cognition, not just affect. Psychologically, hatred often masks deeper wounds: shame, humiliation, rejection, or powerlessness. When these experiences are not understood or integrated, the psyche deflects the pain outward. Instead of acknowledging I was hurt, it becomes a hurt me or they are the problem. Projection turns inward suffering into outward aggression. In this sense, hatred is often grief unprocessed, identity under threat, or fear dressed in armor. Socially and culturally, hatred is reinforced by narratives. Groups bond over shared enemies. Political and religious ideologies can frame hatred as righteous, justified, even noble. The brain, always seeking pattern and belonging, will adopt these narratives when they serve identity protection. Hatred gives people a clear boundary: us versus them. It simplifies a complex world into digestible absolutes, which feels psychologically stabilizing in chaotic environments. Spiritually, hatred is a rupture from essence. It disconnects a person from empathy, from the recognition of shared humanity. It narrows perception, blocks intuitive insight, and traps the psyche in duality, the very framework of opposites such as good and evil, self and other, love and hate. The more one hates, the more one becomes consumed by the object of hate. Energetically, hatred depletes and fragments. It binds consciousness to the very frequency it resists, creating a closed loop of suffering and projection. On the vibrational scale of consciousness, hatred resonates at a very low frequency, just above guilt and fear. According to models such as David Hawkins' map of consciousness, hatred corresponds with energies of destruction, inner division, and contraction. It does not expand awareness. It collapses it inward. In this state, the human aura is often dimmed, and intuitive access to higher insight is blocked. The spiritual self becomes cut off from its natural state of unity, and perception is filtered through trauma rather than truth. Trauma also plays a key role. Individuals who have experienced prolonged helplessness or violence, especially in childhood, may develop hatred as a form of reclaiming power. But it is a false empowerment. The emotion offers temporary control or superiority, yet perpetuates internal fragmentation. Over time, hatred becomes addictive, like a drug. It releases stress hormones and gives the illusion of clarity and control, but at great cost to the nervous system and inner peace. On a collective level, hatred is often passed down intergenerationally. Children absorb the unresolved conflicts of their parents and communities. If a group has been oppressed, scapegoated, or violated, the emotional residue can remain for generations, turning into cultural memory and identity. Unless consciously addressed, the cycle repeats. Hurt people hurting others. But it's important to understand that hatred is not merely a dark force. It is a signal. It points to where the pain is, where the fracture occurred, where reconciliation is needed. It reveals the shadow self, the part of us that has not been loved, seen, or understood. In Jungian terms, hatred is an encounter with the rejected parts of the psyche projected outward. What we hate most often contains what we most fear in ourselves. To dissolve hatred, one must first become aware of its roots, not through suppression, but through courageous introspection. What am I protecting? What pain lies underneath? What do I fear losing? The work is internal, not ideological. It requires honesty, humility, and the willingness to feel what was once too overwhelming to feel. Healing hatred does not mean tolerating injustice. It means confronting injustice without becoming it. It means acting from clarity, not reactivity. It means reclaiming power through integration, not opposition. True transformation comes when we stop identifying with the narratives that feed hate and start addressing the deeper emotional, spiritual, and relational wounds that gave rise to it. Ultimately, hatred is not destroyed by its opposite, but by its source being understood. When the illusion of separation collapses between self and other, pain and power, fear and compassion, hatred dissolves, not because it is defeated, but because it is no longer necessary. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.